Hello, listeners, and welcome to our penultimate episode of our first series of Bunny's Box. And for those that haven't been here for a while, welcome. We've upgraded Bunny's front room to look like her colon. And if you're new to Bunny's Box is a Doctor Who review show where we are reviewing every episode of the new series of Doctor Who series 525,600.
Yeah. What is it?
Let's just go with Series 1.
Yeah, Series 1. Season 1, Series 14. I think it's Season 40 if you're doing it from the 63.
Well, there we go. And for those that haven't seen any of our stuff on audio or on Spotify, so welcome to your first episode. And the whole gag of this series is Buddy's been watching this series for about 57 years, and I've been watching for about 55 seconds.
Yes, I've been watching since 1974, nearly 50 years in December, and you've been watching now. This is week 7?
Yes, episode 7.
Yes, episode 7, week 6. They did a double episode, didn't they, at the beginning? So I'm Bunny Galore, by the way. He didn't introduce me.
Oh, like he needs introducing.
So Queen of the Cult movies and carer to the Beast. It's been really fun. I thought this was a great fun experiment, and this week particularly, I regret not saying to James, start with the Christmas special where Ruby Sunday is introduced, because there's actually quite a lot that not that it's a huge, you couldn't get that. But,
you kind of piece it together throughout, and I did say I would watch it, but I'm going to be honest, I didn't.
I don't know whether, coming completely from blank, I don't know if it really matters, because it's not that you got any answers in that. You just saw those scenes in real time, that are reenacted in the VHS room, which I love.
Yes, even though this was titled The Legend of Ruby Sunday, I left feeling like, so we still know nothing.
No,
I was expecting answers this episode. Why does it snow? Who's a mum? Who's the person in the hooded cloak pointing at the tar? I wanted answers, but I got none.
No. Obviously, two-parters. This is the first of the two-part finale of the season. I loved it. I watched it because I was doing a gig on Saturday. I knew I had to stay up late on Friday to watch it. Not that I would ever not watch it like that anyway, really, because I watched a lot of TV like that.
Yeah.
But the trouble was, because I was so excited by it, I couldn't sleep for hours because I was like, oh my God. Spoilers obviously are in abundance here, because it's a big spoiler, because a huge villain returns. And in the run up to it, I was loving Twitter for like all the different. Now, even I put a poll on Twitter going like, "Who do you think it is?" Because some people had worked out the anagram. I don't think it's actually an anagram, but anyway. And would you think Susan Foreman's going to come back, the Doctor's granddaughter? Do you think it's going to be the Rani? Do you think Rogue's going to come back as a baddie? Or do you think, as the rumours were swirling, that Sutek, a baddie from the Tom Baker era, was going to come back? And at least one, if not two of those are true. Yes. So, shall we do a rundown of the episode? Can we remember anything about it?
I've got some very dodgily written notes, but I did try to take as much notes as I could, because I knew this was going to be a really big episode. So listeners, The Legend of Ruby Sunday starts off with the TARDIS flying through London. And that shot of
Great shot, isn't it?
Is an amazing shot.
Do you like the sonic boom as it came into shot as well? There was like a little cloud around it.
Oh.
Which obviously later on I went like, was that something to do with what happens later on? But it's almost like it's like come through the atmosphere, I guess.
Oh, it's like...
But it's a little... a mushroom cloud,
like come through hyperspace, like entered a wormhole or something. And it's just.
But I wondered if it was something to do with what happens later on.
Oh, it could be. I didn't think.
Great shot though, isn't it? It was in the trailer, obviously, for the season. I love, amazing shot.
It was lovely, and then they all end up at where's
Unit HQ? Yeah, Unit HQ. So that in the Giggle, the 60th anniversary special with David Tennant, they introduced this new base, and that setup, and that's where the David Tennant regenerated it's hard to say, regenerated into Shooty Gatwa, so they split into two on that platform, fighting the Toymaker. So
it was Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes, that's right. So he was again another returning villain from the 60s. Again, there's been, because they brought back pretty much all the recurring villains over the, apart from the Rani, which is why everyone keeps on banging on about the Rani. She's only done it twice, and Anna, like a children in need special. But everybody else is the very, very memorable villains, but they tend to be one-offs. A bit like Bond villains, you know, they don't really come back. A lot of the Bond villains, do they?
Yeah,
some do, but most of them are like, you know, Goldfinger, and you know, so it's like that, especially with the Tom Baker era, and sort of like, it's all one-offs.
TikTok was always going on about, oh, is it this person coming back? Is this person or the trickster? Or this? They're saying a load of names that I actually have no idea, but it's. I didn't realize it was like a wealth of villains that kept recurring and recurring and recurring.
A lot of the time.
I thought it was like a bit episodic, a bit like Buffy had the demon of the episode that they vanquished, and by the maybe more of that demon, they don't really come back, apart from some long through line characters.
Yeah, it depends. It's sort of, obviously the Daleks come back a lot, the Master comes back a lot, the Cybermen come back a lot. Later on, the Sontarans and the Ice Warriors. And they've brought all those monsters back, really. But particularly Tom Baker's era, he gets a lot of recurring villains in his first season, but that's because it's a new Doctor and he's taking over from John Pertwee. They obviously went, throw everything. They used to do that a lot. They used to like bring back the Daleks for the regenerations, because it's a ratings kind of hook and everything, and soothes over anyone that's a bit, is he going to be any good type of vibe. But most of Tom Baker's era, you don't really get anybody coming back, really. It's all these amazing one-off villains. So, which is where this particular villain comes from.
Oh.
But I never thought he would come back, because it's one of those almost not self-contained, but it doesn't feel like it relates to anything. They've kind of, talking about the pantheon or the rest of the gods, they've kind of lumped him in with it.
Yeah.
So I never watched that and went, you could bring him back because he's part of a bigger picture. Not really. I just thought he was a great and an incredible story. Probably one of the best ever stories. It's gothic, and it's Egypt, and Sarah Jane and Tom Baker, and it's like, it's just everything's incredible. And I still remember being absolutely terrified of the mummies in that story, which are quite big lumpy things, really. They're robots, really, but it's a great story. So, but I don't think any of us really ever went, you know what I think will happen?
You know what happened? This massive rat thing will come back.
Exactly. Huge Egyptian dog on top of the.
Oh yes, it's a dog. It looked like I was like, why is it a massive rat?
It's that kind of Egyptian long-nosed dog, isn't it?
A coyote kind of vibe.
Yes, it is, with the big ears and things. Yeah.
There was one thing in this episode when obviously they were like talking about Susan, and because what I loved about this episode, because in my first experience of Doctor Who, I was like, okay, what's the through line here? What is the through line? Because it's just random adventures, very episodic. I'm like, is there a conclusion? And it turns out that the running theme throughout it is Susan Twist. And they actually go, hang on, we keep seeing her everywhere. What the hell's going on? And I also learned that the character wasn't actually called Susan Twist. It was the actress's name.
Well, we didn't know what she was. Everyone started saying Susan Twist, because there was no character names.
Yeah.
She's all these different characters throughout time. Not that I thought maybe she would be Susan Foreman, as in the supposed granddaughter of the Doctor. And by the way, that's only really happened because when the series started, William Hartnell's 55, and he has a young girl, schoolgirl with him. And the two teachers get suspicious and go chase after her and find that she's living in a police box, and hilarity ensues. But rather than say that was their companion, it sounds a bit wrong. So they made her the granddaughter. So it didn't seem so strange. The 55-year-old was running around with a 16-year-old.
Oh yes, well that still happens in today's society.
Exactly.
Doesn't it?
As I was trying to get to that point, I was going, oh my god, that just sounds like most of life, doesn't it?
It sounds, yes.
Obviously, he's playing a lot older. He's playing like 70s, but, with the long grey wig sort of thing.
So, rumored to be the great granddaughter. Who's the original daughter or the son? Or is it that
we've never found out? We've never found out because of that was kind of just a production need at the time.
Oh, okay.
And she leaves after the first season, or the first production break. She leaves, which is second story of season 2. It's kind of never really mentioned again. She came back for the 20th anniversary special, The Five Doctors, but again, it's everybody came back for that. So but it's never been addressed, which is why I think Russell's tapped into this, because it's like, and this season's a lot about family. But so even though the actress Susan Twist, Susan Triad, isn't playing Susan Foreman, I do still have an inkling that Susan will turn up somehow
in some way,
even if it makes at the end the Doctor go. It's like a epilogue scene, and he goes, you know what? It's time I went back and said, hello kind of thing. So I kind of feel like that will still happen.
Ooh, and we had a lot of cameos in this episode. We had a lot of very famous, recognisable names from especially the West End theatrical world. Bonnie Langford made a return.
Bonnie, yeah. So Bonnie was in the show in the 80s. As the kind of the penultimate companion to in the classic era. She came back for David Tennant's special as well in The Giggle with this Leicester Toymaker. So she saw the regeneration. So she's met Ncuti before.
Okay.
I thought she would be more in this season, actually. I was actually quite surprised she didn't turn up until the end of this season. I was like, oh, because we'd seen the leaked photographs of her on the motorbike running around. So we're kind of expecting more of her, and then actually she didn't really. So it's like, oh, okay.
And we also had Anita Dobson as Mrs. Flood.
Mrs. Flood,
who was. I've never seen this character before, which I don't think she's come up in this series, apart from the Christmas special, maybe?
Christmas special, yeah. She's the next door neighbour. Well, she's popped up a couple of times.
Oh.
She was in... but she's always like, oh, don't mind me, dear, type of thing. And
the most ominous, creepy old lady I've ever seen in my life, and I see you every week.
How long have you been practicing that line? Since Sunday.
since Ruby Sunday.
Well done.
Thank you.
Super proud. He's written it on his arm and everything. Yes, indeed. Yes, she is amazing. She what's got everybody in a tizzy about her was because at the end of the Christmas special, she looks down the end of down the barrel of the camera and delivers a line breaking the fourth wall.
Oh yes.
Have you never seen a TARDIS before? To the audience, and it's like, what the hell?
What'd you call me?
Yeah. Many things. Most of them I can't say on this podcast.
Yes, you'll be bleeped.
So yes, fascinating stuff. And then I think possibly one of the best cliffhangers of the revival, if not the entire 61 years, is this build-up to the reveal of Sutek coming back, who's the Egyptian god.
Well, it all comes from they start to project the 24th of December 2004 because they physically can't go back to it. The Doctor's very adamant that they can't go back to that time because it would then probably do a rift or distortion in time, which is against the rules. If
he's in the same place, it kind of interferes with what you did the first time.
Oh yes,
I guess.
Well, it's almost like
I'm sure he's broken this rule before, but it's kind of like, it's like you'd have to hide behind a wardrobe and like leap out as soon as they go off.
Similar to that famous Wizard series that we don't know who the writer was now. When they go back in time, they can't meet the past. They can't meet themselves because it messes it up.
Yes.
Instead, they start to project it with the help of a VHS.
Oh,
Thank you, Carla Sunday, Cheryl Sunday, something Sunday.
The mum, do you mean?
The mum, yeah.
Yes.
Whatever she's called.
I can't remember.
Carla Bear.
Yeah, you said Carla Bear. There we know. Carla Bear is the mother.
And they project the whole church, and then they see Ruby's mother coming through, dropping off at the stairs, and then walking towards, and then has an ominous turn. Can never see her face.
No.
Moves at a very weirdly fast pace, like some
and jumps
sort of cat.
as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
Jumps through time, and then turns and points at the TARDIS.
Yeah. That was creepy as hell.
It was really creepy, but also
very, very good, scary. I was watching it late at night, with the lights off, obviously. So I was like, oh my god! And it takes a lot to scare me. Doctor Who used to scare me in the 70s because it was terrifying. When you're a kid, but that's part of the charm of it. And this is the first time in a long time I've gone, oh my gosh, this is actually really creepy, in a great way.
And to the point where the Colonel decides to try and see around the TARDIS, and engulfed by the beast that's holding the TARDIS.
Yes. So we see a black cloud, don't we? And it's later on that when they do a scan, they've realised that black cloud is there all the time.
Yeah.
And so the climax comes at Susan Triad, I should say, is recording her public broadcast, launching her tech, which is never really explained. Whether that's going to come later, I don't know. But I don't know if that's not important or important. I
think it was mainly just so they could put in Sue Tech.
Yeah, it probably wasn't it?
It was more of a plot. It felt like it was more of a plot point than anything else.
No, you're right. I didn't think of it like that. You're probably right. I just thought it was a MacGuffin to kind of,
It was a way to wedge him in there.
Building up to this big reveal of Sutek is coming back and has been clamped onto the TARDIS, and Susan Triad is a minion of Sutek. And Genesis, by the way, who I work with on The Bodyguard.
Genesis Linnea?
Yeah, is...
Oh, I thought I recognised her.
Yeah, I forgot that she was in the show. And so, oh my God, it's Genesis. I love Genesis so much.
Fabulous West End performer as well.
Really, yes, amazing. I did Bodyguard with her, and I remember bumping into her and Amy Atkins when they were rehearsing a little show, which I thought, oh, that sounds like it's never going to go past 6 weeks in Edinburgh, called Six.
And it's gone on for...
Yeah. I literally met them in rehearsals. I'm like, why have you got pink hair, Amy? And I was doing this show, and it's about the Henry VIII's wives. I was like, well, yeah, sure. Okay, whatever.
And here we are 6 years later.
Probably didn't describe it quite as well as it actually is.
But the way that Genesis as Harriet Harbinger just transformed, it
amazing.
Was so ominous. It was so like, oh God, shit's going down. Shit's going down.
Incredible cliff. That element, the music, Murray Gold hitting out the part again. I think it's part of the Masters theme, I think, and from the third series that he's reusing it. And so, yeah, brilliant stuff. Really, really... I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. But that's me knowing, and it wasn't like I really went like, oh, if it hadn't been Sutek, I would have been quite happy. Yeah. If it was Sutek, great. Lovely. But it's not like I was because I was thinking, what are you going to make of this?
I was a bit confused. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, obviously because I don't know these people.
No.
So I don't know the legend or the history. So it was like, oh, okay, let's see what happens. But when it happened, you just saw everyone got a look of, oh shit, because it's the god of death, and well, she touched someone, turned to dust like a Buffy villain, like a vampire. So we didn't know much about what's happened with Ruby Sunday, but we'll find out next week. I saw a rumor that she might be born from the TARDIS on the TikTok, but then someone debunked that rumor. So I'm sure we'll figure it out next week, which is in a few days.
In a few days. The thing that really I kicked myself for not realising, obviously there's been quite a lot of things that would hint to this happening. One, they reenacted a scene from Pyramid of Mars, which is where Sutek's from, where with Jinx Monsoon, they go to a future, so if we don't stop her now, they go to the future, and it's desolation in London. And they did this with Sarah Jane and Tom Baker. So I thought, that's amazing. And the other thing, which I went, how did I not remember this? In episode 1 of Queer as Folk, Russell T Davis's, breaking reward-winning TV show, one of the Doctor Who fan character takes a guy back and says, oh my goodness, you've got Pyramids of Mars, can we watch this now? And they watch the cliffhanger they show the cliffhanger of episode 1, which is not Sutek, which I still didn't quite understand when I was a kid, but it's like basically the Susan Triad character morphing into like some sort of demon character coming out of a time vortex, and the person that's brought them going, I'm your servant. He went, I bring Sutek's gift of death to all non-believers, and puts his hand on his shoulder, and it's like, and he just like, but you see the smoke coming out, and that's the cliffhanger. So all that I bring Sutek's gift of death is a harkening back. And it was in Russell T Davis's Queer as Folk. And why didn't brilliant. I remember that? Of course, that makes perfect sense. So there we go. Next week, the season finale. Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, tune in, listeners, for our review show of the final ever episode of season 1 of Doctor Who.
Let's not speak too soon. The ratings haven't been that great on BBC, so yeah, but who cares? I don't care anymore. Ratings are not, they're not really what they are. They're never what they were anyway. So
tune in next week, listeners, for another episode of Bunny's Box.